to thank everyone that I'm invited here today, particularly the Center for Sexual Diversity and Egale for allowing me to come speak about this very important issue. I am the co-investigator on the first phase of the Youth Speak Up about Homophobia and Transphobia report. And I'd like to thank Dr. Catherine Taylor, who is the principal investigator for this project and who has been doing an awful lot of work to see this project get off the ground and see it through. I think the biggest finding that has come from this report really is that homophobic and transphobic bullying is really neither rare nor harmless. And I think we kind of knew this at the onset, but now we actually have empirical, statistical information that backs up this finding. So I'm just going to quickly talk a little bit about the report. I know many people have seen the executive summary. There's full copies of the report, I think, now available. But in terms of who we sampled for the first phase, overall we had 763 individuals who participated in an online survey, and once data were cleaned, we had a final sample of about just under 700 participants. We decided for phase one just to stick with the online respondents, even though we had four school boards or districts that had participated in the survey. We're currently at almost 2,500 participants that'll come out in phase two. And in terms of the phase one report, around 75% of the respondents identified as LGBTQ. And we did have current and past students participate in this survey. And I think there was a total of 45 school divisions or districts across Canada that participated, or students from these school districts or school divisions that participated in the survey. So very wide reaching survey. The survey itself was divided up in terms of demographic information, experiences, and institutional responses. The analysis was done looking at LGBTQ versus non-LGBTQ, LGB versus transgender, and current versus past students. So in terms of the findings, the one area that we looked at was unsafe spaces. And here we found that 75% of LGBTQ students felt unsafe in at least one space or place at school. Many identified more places. 87% of transgendered students reported feeling unsafe. Next, we looked at homophobic and transphobic comments. Here, we found that 3/4 of all participants reported hearing expressions such as "that's so gay" every day in school, and half heard remarks such as faggot, queer, lesbo, and dyke daily. Current students were more likely than past students to hear expressions such as "that's so gay" in school, so it's still, this is still a common occurrence. It's not something that was done in the past. LGBTQ students were more likely than non-LGBTQ students to report that staff never intervened when homophobic or transphobic comments were made. We also looked at victimization, and here we found that 60% of LGBTQ students reported being verbally harassed about their sexual orientation. 90% of transgender students reported being verbally harassed about their expression of gender. 1 in 4 LGB students had been physically harassed about their sexual orientation. 2 in 5 transgender students reported being physically harassed due to their expression of gender. And over half of LGBTQ students had rumors or lies spread about them about their sexual orientation in school. We also looked at impact, so obviously the result of all the harassment and both physical and verbal that's going on for LGBTQ students. We found that 75% of LGBTQ students and 95% of transgender students reported feeling unsafe at school, compared to only 20% of non-LGBTQ students. And in terms of institutional respondents, most students did not know if their school had a policy for reporting homophobic incidents. So we found this was really an important finding. Of the LGBT students that did find, that knew about their school had a policy for reporting homophobic incidents, those that did have policies felt that their school was a supportive environment. They were less likely to feel unsafe, and they were also less likely to have verbal or physical experiences of harassment. There was numerous conclusions and recommendations that were put forward in the Phase 1 report. I think probably the biggest recommendation that we made was that really it's schools and districts, and even right to the government level in terms of ministers of education, really need to have in place policies, anti-discrimination policies, anti-homophobic, anti-transphobic policies in place. And it really starts at the government, the district, and the school level, right down to GSAs in schools. Another finding that I did talk about was that students that belong to schools with GSAs, which is gay straight alliances, were significantly more likely to feel safer at school, to have fewer incidents of bullying. So these are really important things to have in place at the school level. I just quickly want to talk about Phase 2. Phase 2 is going to involve school divisions and districts that have signed on to participate in the survey. The Toronto School District had originally signed on to the survey, and the deal was that we would randomly select 5 schools in Toronto, and we wouldn't approach more than 10 schools to participate in the survey. To date, we've approached 12 schools, and but of all 12 schools, the principals have declined to participate in the survey. So being here in Toronto today, one of the things that we would like to have is some lobbying done to have the survey completed in Toronto, because we think that this is a very important city to have participated in the survey. So I'll put that out there. We also, in Phase 2, are hoping to look at in more detail LGBTQ families. We just didn't have enough numbers as a statistician. We didn't have enough numbers to do a full analysis, which we're hoping that we can now do with a larger sample. We also want to look at transgender issues in more detail, and also look at some Catholic versus non-Catholic school differences. We did a little bit in Phase 1 report, but the numbers were really quite small. We're hoping that we can increase this in the Phase 2 report and do some more analyses. And finally, we would like to look at some more ethnic and racial comparisons with the Phase 2 data. So I think I will end there. Thank you very much. And,